All right, let's jump right in. We all use our eyes pretty much constantly, right? But have you ever really thought about the words we use for that? It turns out the verb you pick, whether it's look, see, stare, or something else, can totally change the meaning of what you're saying. It reveals a ton about your intentions and your emotions. So let me start with a question for you. Do you look at a sunset, or do you see a sunset? They sound kind of the same, don't they? But one is a choice you make, and the other is just something that happens. Nailing this difference is really the first big step to mastering how we talk about sight. And that brings us to our very first major distinction. We're going to clear up the most common point of confusion right now, and it all comes down to one simple, powerful idea: intention. This breaks it down perfectly. Look is an intentional action. It's when you decide to aim your eyes at something. Think of it like a command. Hey, look at that! But see, well, see is involuntary. It's what your brain registers when something just happens to cross your field of vision, whether you are trying to or not. So you make a choice to look at the sunset, but you might just see a bird fly by your window by complete accident.
Okay, so we've got the basics down. Now let's build on that. What about those moments that happen in a split second? These are the words we reach for when we're trying to describe those quick, fleeting moments of sight.
First up, we have glance. A glance is a quick, intentional look. You know, you're in a boring meeting, you're trying to be sneaky about checking the time, you glance at your watch. You made the decision to look, but you did it super fast. It's an action you're in control of. And here's its perfect counterpart: glimpse. A glimpse is what you see for just a moment, and it's often totally by chance. You weren't necessarily trying to spot the celebrity. You just got a brief view of them as their car sped past. So see the difference? You glance at your watch on purpose, but you glimpse a rare bird by luck. One's a choice, the other's a happy accident. Now let's slow things way down. What about when we look at something for a much longer time? This is where it gets really interesting, because the specific word we use suddenly starts to pack a huge emotional punch. Emotion is everything here.
Let's start with stare. A stare is a long, fixed look. But you can feel the vibe of this word, right? It can be intense, or kind of blank, or, let's be honest, kind of rude. If someone is staring at you on the subway, it doesn't exactly feel friendly, does it? It's a really strong word, and it's got a bit of an edge to it. But what if that long look is full of warmth and good feelings? Well, that's when you gaze. You gaze at the stars in the night sky, or you gaze at a beautiful work of art. The word itself just feels softer. It implies wonder, admiration, maybe even love. It's the same amount of time as a stare, but a completely different universe of feeling.
And then, all the way on the other side of the spectrum, we have glare. A glare is also a long look, but this one is pure anger. It's that look that can stop someone in their tracks. You don't have to say a single word. A glare says everything you need to say, and none of it is nice.
So let's wrap this part up. Stare, gaze, glare, they all mean looking for a long time. But the emotion is what gives them their power. A stare can be rude. A gaze is full of wonder. And a glare is just plain angry. The formula is simple. Duration plus emotion creates the meaning.
All right, time to switch gears again. Sometimes we're not just looking quickly or for a long time, we're looking with a specific goal. These next few verbs are all about having a purpose behind your eyes. You ever been looking for a friend in a massive crowd? You're scanning and scanning, your eyes are going everywhere, and then boom, you find them. That moment, that flash of recognition, is to spot something. It's the successful end of a search. It's that, aha, there you are feeling. And then we have observe. Now, this one sounds a lot more formal, right? And it is. When you observe something, you are watching it carefully, systematically, because you want to learn from it. A scientist observes animal behavior. A detective observes a crime scene. It's watching with a mission.
Okay, enough theory. It's time to put all this into practice. Let's do a quick quiz to see how well you've picked up on these new powerful verbs. You ready for this?
First question: true or false? If you stare at someone, you are probably showing a positive emotion. First question. True or false? If you stare at someone, you are probably showing a positive emotion. I'll give you a second.
What about this one? True or false? Glimpse and glance have similar meanings, both describing a quick look. And that is true. They both deal with really short moments of sight. The key difference, as you know, is that a glance is on purpose, while a glimpse is usually by chance. Next up, true or false? You can use observe in a scientific context. This one is absolutely true. Observe is the perfect word for science. It implies careful, methodical watching with the goal of learning something. Nailed it.
And for our last true or false, let's bring it all the way back to the beginning. See is an intentional action. What do you think? That one is false. This is the main idea right here. Look is the choice, see is the result. Awesome job!
All right, let's try a matching challenge. On the left, 4 verbs. On the right, 4 meanings. Take a few seconds and see if you can pair them up correctly.
Okay, let's fill in a blank. She blanket the beautiful painting for a long time. Would you use gazed or glared? Well, the clue here is beautiful painting. That suggests admiration and wonder, right? So the correct answer is gazed. She gazed at the painting.
And one last one to really lock it in. Did you look or see the moon last night? Think about it. The question isn't asking if you went outside and tried to find the moon, it's just asking if the moon happened to come into your view. So the right verb is see. Did you see the moon last night?
So, let's pull all this together. What's the big takeaway? You've basically just upgraded your vocabulary. You have a whole new toolkit for talking about sight. Just remember these three things. First, intention is the key difference between look and see. Second, adding time and emotion to the mix gives us all those wonderfully specific words like stare, gaze, and glare. And finally, you can now pick the perfect verb to be way more precise and powerful in your communication.
And that brings me to one last thought. You know, we spend our whole lives seeing things, but how often do we actually stop to look? And how often do we really take the time to observe? So I'll leave you with this question. Now that you have the right words, what will you choose to truly observe today?